The game Timman against short is one such sample. After the moves e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, e5, knight b5, d6, we have achieved our Kalashnikov. c4, by far the most used move. Bishop b7, knight 1 to c3, a6, knight f3, bishop b6, knight c2, rook c8, already aiming for the counterplay against the pawn on c4. The rook is eyeing that pawn, and as well as the bishop. Sometimes that knight can also attack it from a5. In this game, Timman decided to defend the pawn with b3 immediately. Another possibility is knight e5 here, to which most probably Black is going to make use of the fact that the knight is not yet developed like it is in the Sveshnikov, and he can play bishop g5 to trade the bishops, which is in his favor. Knight c to e3, possible. Continuation, knight to e7, bishop d3, short castling, knight e4. So the difference between these two squares, the one on d4 is an advanced post, it is occupied forever, while the one on d5 is defended by the black pieces. It's much easier to defend it. Knight d4, b3, knight takes d5, and after c takes d5 the game is approximately equal. We're going to see similar position in the progress of the DVD. Also white can take here with the pawn, to which black plays bishop d7, bishop b2, and now he can still play b5. That's also one of the things. Once that the knight on c3 is off the board, black easily prepares b5. Also f5 is an idea in positions like that, but here concretely b5 is good. After c takes b5, a takes b5, bishop takes d4, pawn takes back on d4, knight f5, bishop takes f5, bishop takes f5. The opposite colored position of the bishops is just okay for the second player, and here's a move like a rook to c4 is giving approximately equal position. Okay, let's go back to the game that we were just considering. b3 was the answer that Timman chose. Now knight f6, bishop e2, the opponent's just castled, and once that the pawn is on b3, we talked about this in the previous clip, then black should always have a look and search for the idea b5 it is working, because these knights on c3 and c2 might be hanging. Here this is precisely the case, so black plays b5 and at least equalizes the position. White has to take it, as otherwise the pawn on c4 will become a target, it will be under attack, and it will be even worse for him. He will have an isolated pawn on c4, and if he plays a move like knight e3, then he's letting the knight arrive on d4 with the threat to take on e2 and then to take this pawn, and still the knight on c3 is hanging. White cannot take on b5, which means that black is firmly holding the initiative. He's better here. In the game, Timman took on b5, to which short took back with the a pawn. There is also the move knight a7, also very good for black, making use of the fact that the knights are hanging. After queen d3, black is taking with the knight, getting rid of the knight on the rim. Knight takes b5, pawn takes b5. There is no time for white to take the pawn on b5 as the knight on c2 is hanging this time. Knight e3, possible continuation to fight for the d5 square, as otherwise black is also intending to play d5 himself and to gain superior position not only on the flanks but in the center too. Here b4 would be the answer, bishop b2, and then black is going to transfer this knight to a better position, to the c5 square, from where it will attack the pawn on e4. It will also hit the pawn on b3, and as a whole it is ideal position for this piece. Say possible bishop f3, knight c5, queen b5, rook b8. The queen needs to come back, and now either bishop g5, developing this piece and putting it on a better place, or the maneuver queen b6, intending to meet knight c4 with queen a6 from a6. The queen is defending the d6 pawn, hits the a2 pawn, thus forcing this rook to stay passive, and also black wants to take on c4 and to create a weak pawn on c4. Well, that's just very good position for black. Okay, a takes b5 was played into the game. Also a very good move. Bishop f3, similarly like in the line that we have just seen. White needs to control the pawn on e4, as black was threatening to play himself b4, and after that this pawn is going to be lost. White cannot defend with a move like a3, as this pawn would be hanging. The one on b3, and he's just losing a pawn without any compensation. And also, what is very important for this line, he cannot trade on b5. If he takes with the knight, this is just a bad trade for him, a central pawn for corner one, and black is just better here. He's going to advance the pawns, and he's going to take the center and to squeeze the opponent after that. While if white takes on b5 with the bishop, this is going to be tactically refuted, either with the suggestion by Sveshnikov queen a5. That's not bad. Bishop b2, knight takes e4 is just very nice position for black with the two bishops and the strong center. Also have in mind that the move knight takes d6 is tactically refuted here because of bishop takes d6, queen takes d6, rook to d8. The queen has only one square to go, that's a3, but after rook e8 the squares are over and the queen is lost. But also after bishop b5, besides the move queen a5, black can also immediately attack both the pieces. That's much more simple. The knight and the bishop are hanging, and black is also clearly on top here. The only move to defend both the pieces is bishop c4, but then bishop takes c4, pawn takes back on c4, rook takes c4, is bringing a position in which black is clearly better. He has the more active pieces, he has advantage in the center, and white has a weak pawn on a2, and also this pawn is under attack. So after that, most probably he's going just to play queen a8, rook c8, and also try to play d5 to show that to open up the game for the bishop and for his pieces in general. So bishop f3, very modest, but a must. Here short played knight b4, and just trading the pieces. That's not necessary. He could have played some other moves, for example, just queen b6 is one good idea, followed by rook d8. But knight b4 is very solid. Here just trading the pieces and relieving the defense. Still we're playing as black, we shouldn't forget that. Rook takes c3, bishop d2, rook c8. well, the game is obviously equal. Neither of the sides has advantage. Black is controlling the c file for the time being. White will also start to compete for this file in a while. The good thing for white is that he is also controlling firmly the d5 square. If he didn't do that, he would be simply worse if black manages to play d5 himself, and also the knight on b4 is well placed, not allowing b4 ideas to fix this pawn on a2. The further course of the game was queen e2, queen b6, rook f to d1, h6, h3, some improvements by both sides, then rook c7, doubling the rooks. White cannot allow his opponent to take the only open file. He needs to trade rooks now. Rook ac1, which he did, rook fc8, rook takes c7, rook takes c7, queen d3, queen b7, rook c1. Now this maneuver, the bishop is heading for the b6 square or for the a5 square. Bishop d8. Also, there is a small trap. White cannot really take this pawn as the bishop on d2 is hanging. In the game, rook c2 was played. Only now black trades the rooks. Knight takes c2, bishop c7, knight back to the active position on b4, bishop d7 to let free the queen. The bishop is protecting the pawn on b5 and also stops the ideas with a4. Bishop e3, queen to a8. Black is already threatening to play bishop a5 to trade this knight and to take the pawn on a2. Therefore, queen c2, bishop a5, bishop d2. He needs to protect the knight. Now, Short just wanted to activate further the bishop with bishop c5 and queen a7 to get an absolute control over this diagonal. Timman decided not to allow it, and after bishop e3 they just repeated the moves bishop a5, bishop d2, bishop b6, and they agreed to a draw in this situation. Although after bishop e3 black could have continued to play for a win by trading on e3, f takes e3, queen a7, say after king f2 he just plays g6, then little by little improves his position. The bishop on f3 doesn't really look great. It is just defending the pawn on e4, but on the other side black is also having this weak square on d5. So let's say that even here the position is approximately balanced and the draw was the correct outcome of the game.